Hello, this is C.H.E.K. Welcome back to my video blog series. Today we're going to start a little mini-series on freedom. So far I got 2 parts planned, but you never know what'll happen. My little talk today is inspired by this amazing book, The Art Spirit, who I'm very grateful to my friend Rick for sharing with me. This is an amazing book by Robert Henry, and my inspiration today comes from page 175. So let's see what I have in store to share with you with regard to freedom today. So first of all, what is freedom? Well, there's a lot of different definitions in the dictionary. I just grabbed a few that I thought were appropriate for our talk today. 1, freedom is the ability to act freely. That sounds good. Release from captivity or slavery. Now I want to make the point going into this that we are often captive to our own mind and therefore slaves to our family, social, or cultural ideas. So in many ways, though the concept of slavery as we think about it has come relatively to an end, we are really often very much still slaves to social ideas, dogmas, religious dogmas, parental impositions, etc. So to be free actually does mean to be free of those dogmas or ideas that limit you in any way from being authentically yourself. So there you go on that one. Next, the right to act or speak freely is an expression of freedom, and to exercise one's free will, the capacity to choose to do what you decide to do on your own impetus. So that's a basic overview of what I'm referring to when I use the word freedom today. Now, Robert Henry makes many profound statements in his book. By the way, that book's not light reading, but for anyone interested in spiritual growth and development as a human being, and or particularly of any type of artist, it is profound, and he is definitely an enlightened man, as you will find quickly reading the book. So as an example of one of Robert Henry's comments that was my inspiration for today, Robert Henry says, freedom can only be obtained through an understanding of basic order. Basic order is underlying all life. Let's read that again. Freedom can only be obtained through an understanding of basic order. Basic order is underlying all life. So those are the key comments we want to work on today in our expression of freedom. So freedom can only be obtained through an understanding of basic order. So I wanted to share what is that basic order. What is underlying things like I should, I shouldn't, if I do this, I won't get that. Will I be loved? Am I pretty enough? Those are all things that we express in our heads, but they are oftentimes either above the basic order, therefore more complex in their nature, or they are things that we express with ignorance of the basic order, and without an understanding of the basic order, our capacity for free will is drastically limited because we don't understand what the building blocks of freedom are. So using sort of a marriage or a synthesis of many thoughts from Taoism to Zen Buddhism to Sufism to quantum physics to Hinduism, even Christianity and the Holy Trinity, I'm basically going to lay out a model, and this model is not something that I'm trying to share as an intellectual concept. You can argue about all ideas because for every is, there's an equal and opposite isn't. So if someone says the flower is beautiful, it won't take you long to find someone who says it isn't beautiful. What I'm proposing to you today is to explore what I'm saying through your own practice of inner exploration. Not so much, is Paul right or is Paul wrong? I don't agree with that. You can't agree with me or disagree with me on an intellectual basis, or you're missing the point. And therefore, to explore the concepts one must be willing to go into a meditative practice, a practice of letting go of their own preconceived ideas and see what rises up and if it actually matches this structure. Millions of people who have done any development through the meditative sciences will have come up with the same basic structure because it is the basic structure that underlies freedom itself. So I've broken it down into 3 principles so that we can progress in a very stage-wise fashion. The first principle that I'm going to share with you is the absolute. The absolute is not something that can be known as this or as that, because the absolute means all in capital letters. So you can't measure an absolute because you cannot measure something without excluding yourself from it. So the reason you can't measure an absolute is the same reason that an eyeball can't see itself or a tooth cannot eat itself. To measure the absolute would be you're trying to put something outside of yourself, and therefore that would leave you with 2. You could never do that. So the absolute silence, 0, represents first principle, which in my model represents consciousness. That does not mean consciousness as in the kind of consciousness you have listening to me right now. It means that which is perceiving within yourself and within myself, but is not bound to this or that. So when you say, that's my hand, consciousness is allowing you to perceive that you have a hand, but consciousness itself is not the thought or the hand. It's something beyond that, which is the totality of all that is. Using a Walter Russell term, 0, which is the source from which all creation emerges, and this is well documented now in quantum physics. This is no longer metaphysical or esoteric. It's objective scientific observation. So 0 equals the bank of the absolute. The absolute is the source of all creation. Therefore, to use Walter Russell's term, think of it as a bank account from which all life as this or as that borrows the energy, potential, and or resources to create itself. So the second principle then emerges as the 2 qualities of an absolute meeting each other to produce reality or relativity. Yin equals the negative or the potential for 0 to be empty. 0 can be absolutely empty, yin, negative, and 0 includes everything that is because it's absolutely full, so full we can't even potentially measure it. So therefore, the positive of this experience, or that which is, I am a body, I'm a positive projection in space, the positive then is represented as yang. So yin is the energy that's empty, or shall we say reduced, 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 only to become full. This relates to enfolding. So space has the potential for anything to be in it as a matter of expression. So if your coffee cup's already full, you can't put anything in it, therefore it does not have any more yin capacity. So the negative 1 of the absolute means room to put something into. The positive 1 means something being put into shape, form, or expression. Just to make sure you're not confused about this, these 2 always create together. You can't have something that's purely something without nothing. Every atom is 99.999 to the 9th decimal point empty, but yet it's still something. So at the level of creation, Tai Chi means the marriage of complementary but relatively opposite forces that co-create existence and thought itself. So second principle in this model means the expression of 0 as its 2 distinct qualities, or the absolute qualities of emptiness, negative yin, and fullness, something positive yang, which we can correlate with vibration. Science shows us that all things in the created universe are made of vibration. The Hindu symbol for all vibration, or the sound of the universe, or the one song, is the symbol Om. So Om would emerge as anything that moves, or the life principle. So second principle emerges as Om. All creation emerges, all something, all existence emerges out of first principle, which is unidentified pure potential or unconditional love, and becomes something relative that is perceptible that we know of as existence or nature, which would be nature or existence would be the one song, which is oscillating energy, moving constantly from being full to less full and empty to more full, which produces the one song or vibration or all that is. Now, consciousness itself has no story, but within consciousness is movement, as you see here, which I refer to here as the life story. All of our stories are inclusive in the life story. So at the level of Tai Chi, we're dealing with any is, isn't relationship, any subject, object, or I-thou relationship. Tai Chi turns out to be the basis of love, desire and will, desire yin, will yang, subject yin, object yang, however you want to assign those values. So the life story in universal consciousness equates to the collective unconscious, not just the collective of human beings, but the collective of the entire consciousness of the universe itself, which I refer to as natural intelligence, which is unique because it's fully integrated. This is going on inside of you all the time. Most of you have no idea how you're making poop, but you're doing it. Most of you have no idea how you're digesting food, but you're doing it. Most of you are completely clueless as to how your hormone system runs, how your nervous system works, how you grow and repair muscles, and how you improve your mental emotional function at the physiological or spiritual level, yet you do it beautifully without thinking about it. Well, nature does not need plans and textbooks to grow planets, trees, stars, animals, and human beings. It does it as natural intelligence, which is fully integrated and is unconscious because it is not actually trying to create something specific. It's a natural expression of all that is. So the life story then is the story of consciousness itself playing itself out in and as this. Third principle in my model relates to self-awareness. We are, in essence, a copy of nature living in, experiencing, and looking back and interacting with nature. So the first principle, silence or pure potential, expresses as relativity the second principle, which is Om, or the sound of creation, the one song, all that is, which emerges progressively in complexity to create sentient beings such as you and I. And so here we have self-awareness, and the key principle of free will is to know that you're in co-creation with 0, 1, first principle, second principle. You could not co-create if you weren't conscious, and you could not co-create if you had nothing to create with. So the fact that you're aware, and hopefully aware that you're something more than just your body, tells you that you're sentient and conscious, something to be aware of. This is my hand, this is me talking, and the fact that I know that I am giving you this little mini lesson, third principle. I couldn't be here without these prior principles. This couldn't exist without that. Unconditional love, conditional love, the use of unconditional love to create your own conditions for your own natural self-expression or the exercise of your free will. At the third principle, your life represents your story, which is essentially one of the stories within the grand story. All of our stories intermingle with each other. So we are conscious and we are free to the degree that we realize that the truth of all creation is unconditional love, the absolute or pure potential, and that vibration and thought are all essentially words that have the same meaning. Thought emerges when the empty of the full meets the full of the empty, producing vibration which goes on eternally. There's no beginning or no end to zero, and we know for a fact that existence has full and empty in it, and they keep on becoming each other. All you've got to do is look around. And then we also come to know that we are working on the same principles, and that to the degree that we're self-aware and that we're aware of the higher principles within which we interact, and that our story is our own unique responsibility, our own unique joy of self-expression and co-creation, then we can learn that consciousness is always available, potential is always available, and it only says yes because to say no would be a condition. This is why many great masters have said, be careful what you pray for. You may not like what you get, meaning that every thought is a prayer, and consciousness never says no. To the degree that you want to create anything, you must borrow energy or resources from stillness, which creates a credit, and that credit will be paid back. That credit for all things is paid back as radiation, decay, and transformation. All of us get old and die, so as we go through our cycle of borrowing, utilizing, and expressing, the natural unfolding of that cycle to return back to the first principle state of rest, you could call that gravity, if you will, brings everything back towards a natural resting state, just like water runs downhill to a resting point. So how all this plays out in your sense of am I free is knowing that there is no judgment, unless you create it or believe in socially contrived judgment, that existence is proof that natural intelligence works without intellect, because we don't have trees and stars and planets taking classes on how to do that. It's a natural expression of unconditional love, and we can participate in the story by creating our own story. And to the degree that we live authentically and we're true to our own self-expression, we are by definition a free person. To the degree that we stop expressing ourselves or change our expression to fit somebody else's idea of what they think is going on here, which is really their own idea, which is a third principle reality, we're avoiding the second principle reality, which is equally our right to use the two qualities of the empty and the full to create whatever we would like to create. So for exercising your free will, remember, unconditional love always says yes. To say anything else would be a condition. Next, access Om will be the equivalent of intuition. So when you want to create something and you want to get outside of a story, such as somebody else's judgment of yourself, one of the most beautiful things you can do is learn to relax your mind through Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, art, anything that makes you relax enough to stop thinking and go back to your natural intelligence. Then in your natural state of joy, bliss, or calmness, you can harmonize yourself with the universal mind, and at that point your ego is now no longer a limiting factor. By calming the mind down and going into a state of rest, you open your aperture of perception to include all vibration or all thought action, which means that the universe becomes equivalent to your own brain, shall we say. That gives you the information, ideas, motive, and support to create at your own third principle level or third level of creation your own story and allow you to use those principles. And this is the nature of breathing. The transfer of this from something to nothing and nothing to something is the source or the impetus of breathing and our heartbeat. Inhaling, that's something. That gives me energy and oxygen to run my body and charge my body. Exhaling, now I'm getting more empty. I'm letting go of those things. So essentially the exhale is the mini-death. The inhale is the birth of a mini-life. And we do that 25,900 times a day. So breathing and balancing your breathing and relaxing with your breathing brings you into tune with the natural harmony and frequency of the universal mind. moving in a balanced way, in a relaxed way, and coupling movement with breathing, again, brings you into that natural no-mind state where you feel the flow of chi, the flow of life force, the energy moving through the trees, the energy coming off a bee's wings or a bird's wings, or the sense of movement of an animal moving across a field, but not that you feel it out there, you feel that inside of yourself. So when we're moving and breathing in harmony, and we're in tune with seasonal cycles, we are now knowing that everything comes and goes and changes in a natural rhythm, and that creation itself unfolds in cycles. So winter represents sleep and rest and deep dreaming. Spring represents awakening, planning, and sprouting. Summer represents growth and activity. Fall represents conclusion, harvesting, fruiting, and celebration. So all nature goes through these cycles, as you can see on any farm or just walking around in nature. And then finally, non-judgment. Once we understand that all things have the same source of consciousness and all things are expressions of the universe of the one song, and that we are really part of that one song, and to the degree that we're conscious, we are co-creating both with the intention of expressing our love and our free will, but also with the intention of giving everyone else equal right to express their own love and free will to the very best of our ability. Then we go into co-creation, which is driven largely by non-judgment, because to the degree that you judge others, you're likely to perceive your own judgments within yourself. In other words, if you see someone as good or bad or should or shouldn't, those are all expressions of your own inner reality. And to the degree that we're constantly judging others, then we are simultaneously judging ourselves, which means that we're already confining ourselves into a state of living without freedom. Therefore, one of the key principles of true freedom is non-judgment and allowing others to express themselves fully, but being aware that their opinion does not necessarily need to be yours. Their way of living doesn't need to be yours. If somebody's only begotten Savior is Jesus, I can honor that. But if somebody says there's no other Savior for anybody else and everybody else is wrong, now that person's in a state of judgment, and that stops the rest of us from living fully. So whenever we stop others from living fully, we automatically express our own judgments within ourselves. So in closing, my encouragement for everybody is not to look at this as an intellectual discussion or something, oh, I disagree with Paul on zero or whatever that is, or I don't believe in yin and yang. These things are all just basic principles by which we can all investigate that and come to our own truth and our own inner freedom. The first thing you got to understand is as long as your mind is thinking, you're not free. You can only know what you're thinking about. The mind is an exclusion machine. If I say I'm wearing a black shirt, I've just agreed with myself it's not white. I had to exclude all other possibilities. Teaching stuff like this is only to give you a basic framework based on an intellectual overview, but I'm really encouraging you to do what I do regularly, which is to go have the experience and then put it in your own words so that others may be able to hear what you're experiencing differently. No matter how much I try to say the truth, many people will not be able to perceive it through my way of expression, but you may have a gift, and you do have a gift that the rest of us don't have. So the secret here isn't about a debate of right or wrong. It's about, are you ready to have your own experience and do your own investigation? You'll know when you're at first principle because there will be no thoughts moving through your head. But you will be having an experience. It will not be one you can talk about, but you will be having an experience, I can promise you. Second principle you'll be aware of, because there will be something that you can register as a mountain, a star, a tree, a human being. And third principle emerges very quickly when you realize that you're not that star, that person, or that human being that's coming up in your consciousness. Therefore, you are now separate from everything else around you, which gives you individual identity. And we cannot really truly have free will until our individual identity is free to move around within the greater overarching identity of humanity, the world, nature, and existence itself. So once a person just challenges themselves and gets totally quiet, only then can they really know if what I'm talking about is true, because to argue about something like that without having been there means that you're already expressing the need to work on your free will. Then when you're in that experience of idea, you quickly realize that all ideas create limitations, and therefore they can't be the truth. But without ideas, we can't really know and express ourselves. And once we realize that the universe is the grand idea or the life story, and we know that our story fits within that story, then we can create beauty within ourselves and share that with others authentically, while at once encouraging them to be free as well. And as we move in that direction, we all learn how to live and love more fully, and it makes the world a more fun place to be. So I hope you enjoyed that little first part, and we'll come back with a second part soon. Enjoy your meditations.